what's going on, guys? Greg here. Happy New Year. Hope you guys had a great holiday. Today's video is going to be going over actually my top 5 baits of 2015. Something I like to do as I prepare for a new season is look back at the previous season, see what worked, see what didn't, and looking at some of my most productive baits is a good way to gauge what I want to stock up on for 2016 or the following year. Before I go any further, I just want to give a shout out to my buddy Mark. He's the owner of BIGWORMPRODUCTIONS. I met him down in Central Texas when I was fishing the Cat Series this past year, and as some of you may know, I was fortunate enough to win the Cat's Kayak Angler of the Year. And Mark did a really amazing video, just kind of doing a story on me, which I can't thank him enough for. I think he did an amazing job, and something that I'll definitely remember for the rest of my life. So if you guys haven't seen it, I'm going to put a link in the corner of this video that you can click and check that video out. Again, big thanks to Mark, and if you guys haven't checked out his channel, I'll put a link as well in the corner of the screen. But he does phenomenal work, and I just want to thank him for that. Alright guys, so this video is my top 5 baits of 2015. These aren't necessarily my favorite baits or even the baits I threw the most of them are, but these are the baits that when I look back at the season caught me the most fish. So they're my most efficient baits. And the first one I'm going to start out with is a chatterbait. This is a ZMan ChatterBait. This is black and blue, a ½ ounce, and I've got a Gary Yamamoto Swim Senko trailer on there. Now, this bait was especially productive for me when the fish were in a pre-spawn and a post-spawn mode. Other conditions it was successful for me was in low light conditions. There was a couple cats tournaments where we started at 6 a.m. and it was dark for about 45 minutes. So low light conditions, that chatterbait, that vibration it gives off, that bigger, darker profile was very good for me in those low light conditions. The way I typically would fish this bait, I like the yo-yo style. So it's not, a simple cast and retrieve. I like to cast it as far as I can. I like to reel it up, and then I let the bait sink down, get the slack, and then raise the rod tip up again. So it's just a yo-yo style retrieve. And I actually noticed that most of my hits would be on the fall. So that's my first top 5 bait of 2015, the ZMan ChatterBait. The next bait I have for you is the Strike King Hack Attack Jig. I have this paired with a Rage Chunk trailer. The two colors I'd alternate between for this bait, if the water was darker, black and blue, and then if it was a little bit clearer, I'd go with Okeechobee Craw. Now for this specific jig, I used probably 99% of the time the 3/8 ounce. It gives it a little bit slower fall than your ½ ounce baits. It's a bulkier profile than say a Texas rig. So there was days actually on the water where I would stick with my main bait, which I'll go over, the Strike King Rage Menace. I'd Texas rig that, and there was days that just wouldn't get bit. And what I'd switch up to is the 3/8 ounce Hack Attack Jig. It would just slow the presentation, have a little bit bulkier profile, and some days that was the absolute ticket. That was some days the only thing that the fish wanted. So overall, it's a good flipping and pitching bait. You can swim it, you can drag it, but very versatile. So this bait definitely played a huge role in 2015 for myself. The next bait I have for you is a Booyah Pad Crasher. If you guys have seen some of my videos, you know that I've got a lot of videos featuring this bait. It's my absolute favorite way to catch bass in the world. I'm sure that's the same with most people, catching them on the top water. I've experimented with a few other frogs, but I found for the price, this is one of the best frogs out there. It's about $6 or so, and to be honest, it lasts probably about 7-8 fish before it tears up, sometimes more. The two things I do to modify this bait is I of course trim the legs, trim about 1 inch off on one side and maybe a ½ inch on the other side. And the other thing that I do is I take some KVD fish sticks and I just spread it on the entire frog as well as the legs. Sometimes, as you probably know with frog fishing, you'll get a fish that completely misses your frog or maybe just nips the legs. And I feel that with the KVD fish sticks, getting that scent on that bait and having that fish, I guess, taste the bait when they miss it, allows you to have that second strike or a better opportunity for that second strike. So those are the two modifications I do for this bait. Typically, I'd say 95% of the time I'll throw a black and yellow frog. Sometimes I'll throw a green one, but mainly the black and yellow. The next bait I have for you guys is the one bait that is a finesse style bait that made my top 5 of 2015, and it is a Zoom Z-Drop. This is the purple smoke color. I'd also go with green pumpkin, but for this particular bait, I obviously had it on a drop shot rig, and though I spent about 6-7 months in Texas for the beginning of 2015, I moved back to New York for about a month, and the water up here is a lot more clear, and we have, of course, smallmouth, a lot of smallmouth. So when I came back up here, I had to use the drop shot more just to catch some more fish and put some numbers up in tournament situations. So this was definitely a big factor. This bait was a big factor for fishing in New York during the summer for me. Last but not least, definitely not least, is definitely the most productive bait of 2015 for me. By far caught the most fish for me. I'd say, if I'm just guessing, I'd say that 85% of the bass I caught in 2015 were caught on this very bait, and this is a Strike King Rage Menace. 80% of the time I'd throw black and blue, and then the other 20% I'd throw green pumpkin with purple and gold flake, just depending on the water clarity. This is a tremendous bait. What I do, the way I rig it is I use a half-ounce tungsten weight pegged to a 5/0 trocar flipping hook. And I would throw this thing pretty much all times a year, pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn, and I would throw this either on 50-pound Power Pro braid or 20-pound fluorocarbon. For this bait, what I was looking to do was throw it into the thickest cover I could, typically. So throwing it into reeds, throwing it into big grass mats, throwing it into brush piles. This bait, for whatever reason, just seemed to trigger strikes like no other. And for me, by far, like I said, this was just an absolute fish magnet. Going back to the 2015 cat season, I caught easily the majority of my fish using this bait. And, I think it'll definitely be a big player in 2016 as well. So if you guys haven't tried this bait, I highly recommend it. It looks like, a do-nothing bait, but for whatever reason, these little rage tails, they get going and get kicking in the water. The fish can't stand it. They just have to eat it. So definitely try that bait if you haven't already. Alright guys, well those are my top 5 baits of 2015. Hopefully they're just as successful in 2016. I highly recommend all of them for you guys if you want to try them. If you have any specific questions regarding like my setups, my line, the way I fish them, feel free to comment below and I'll try to answer as soon as possible. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.